Welcome to Payne on Politics, a podcast where host Dr. Gregory Payne of Emerson College sits down with fellow experts to discuss the current state of politics, public opinion, and global affairs. In a world growing increasingly complex, communication and critical thinking is key. This only makes the Emerson motto, expression necessary to evolution, more true.
Hello, this is Gregory Payne, the Chair of Communication Studies at Emerson College, the first communication department in the United States, also co-chair of the Emerson Blanquerna Global Center. And we're here on the beautiful Boston Common during one of the last weeks of a semester. And this semester has been very special to me because I've been in charge and been lucky enough to have just a group of gifted students from across the college, not only communication studies, but also VMA, WLP, performing arts, you name it, we've got it. We've also had a lot of speakers here, including Ron Stokes, who talked to us about the narrative of Jackson State. We've brought in people like Lee Schwabel. Lee, if you're listening to this, we're happy because not only did you provide us insights in terms of what occurred at Kent, but we're going to be seeing you soon, thanks to your generosity, by bringing this seminar class to Kent State. I will go on and on with regard to those visitors, but I don't have the time because I've got two distinguished guests who are in the class. And I'd like, first of all, if we could you please introduce yourselves? So we'll go with our VMA ambassador, Misha.
So I'm Misha. I'm a VMA junior, and I took this class to learn about Kent State, and I'm happy with what I've learned. I think it's a great class.
Terrific. And then over here, you said this is your first time on camera?
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be your last. Okay. And your name?
Hopefully.
And
It's a
why did you
star.
take the class?
I'm Wen Hao. I'm a Com Studies major senior, and I'm taking this class for not only learning communication and also understand some history of United States and how to the two events sort of combine.
Well, you know, what's interesting, I think, for both of you, and of course we had a large number in the class, is that we've been exploring the various mediated realities, and that is different stories. And of course, what would be your favorite, Misha, in terms of mediated reality? It doesn't mean that it's one that you agree with, but one that at least was out there and has popular support.
Well, I think the one that's been most relevant to my experience in the class has been the version of the pro-guard, anti-students one, the one about the students were ratchety and the guards needed to crank down on them because that they were disturbing the peace and stuff like that. That's just been my experience through the class because I played a guard during the Southwick play for the recital.
Yes.
That was also the agenda that we looked at in regards to, me and a fellow classmate, Quinn, we did a presentation about that.
Yes.
So it just seems to be continuously reoccurring that I have to defend the guards' view of things, which, that's one of the main lessons we took away from your class is that every sort of event has from it spins many agendas, many
Right.
different narratives about it, and it's like a puzzle trying to fit together what everyone thinks and try to arrive at some objective consensus.
Well, I think that's the key. There are various mediated realities. As you said, one that strikes a responsive chord is the fact that Governor Rhodes, who was someone who called in the Guard more at Kent than all other governors combined, he called in the Guard, and of course he gave that very famous speech in which he said, what we have here is the worst type of people we harbor in America. When he says, what we're going to do with it, we're not going to deal with the situation, we're going to eradicate it. So when you look at the power of rhetoric, the power of words, what was your favorite mediated reality on Kent State?
Yeah, my favorite is not really a popular one, but I think it is a response to the report of Kent State Grand Jury. It is made by a student organization in Kent State University. It is called the Committee of Truth and Justice. What I really like is that they're really trying to tell the story. They're trying to tell the key truth that no guard is dead, no guard is being harmed, no student is armed, and students are dead or shot are really far away from the guard. They're really trying to tell the key truth that, the report by the Kent State Grand Jury is nonsense. But they didn't explain so many details, like the mysterious burning of ROTC building or the fire on Friday, who started it? Is it some motorcycle gang or something?
Yes.
They didn't explain that.
Yes.
Yeah, the only thing they try to explain is that the student didn't have the ability to harm the guard, and it is the guard trying to kill the students, and they also like having like so many statements on how Kent State is not really political, how like students there are mostly not political, they're not protesting, they're just like going to see what's going on, they got shot, they got killed. Yeah, I think like they're trying to talk or like communicate with the general public.
Yes.
Like at that time, like when like some like Kent State locals or like some people are not like really like student protests against Vietnam War. They think that it is not really patriotic or something.
Yes.
They're trying to talk to that population that these students are not political at all. Kent State is not political at all. They're just like victim. They're just like being shot.
Okay, I think what you said then is, of course, Portage County Grand Jury report, something that Misha said is something that at least a lot of people believed, over 55-60% exonerated the guard. They, of course, said the guard had to fire because their lives were endangered. President's Commission said absolutely not, unjustified, unwarranted, and inexcusable. If we move forward, and I think for anyone who's listening to Pain on Politics on Kent State, of course, what you find is I've had a long history with that, having written the first dissertation at the University of Illinois on it. But we decided to really showcase not only the events 53 years after, but we had a retrospective. And the retrospective was for us to reflect on what occurred and lessons learned, etc. And we had people like John Philo, and Mary Vecchio was coming, but she had a rotator cuff surgery, so we're going to have her in the fall. Misha, from your perspective, what was it like meeting John Philo? What's the lesson? What do you take away from that meeting? Because he won the Pulitzer Prize. He was a student. Took that picture that's, of course, on my wall here of Mary Vecchio leaning over the body of Jeff Miller.
We all met John Philo, the class before the official retrospective. It was very personal. It was very surreal. Just having had a whole class and always knowing this picture even prior to that class. It's one of the most iconic pictures in journalism, and just the fact that the guy was there and how down to earth he was and how humble he was and how resistant he was to any praise or talking up his noteworthiness, because obviously this is someone that changed the course of American history, just arguably brought the Vietnam War way quicker to an end than it would have otherwise. In some ways kind of minimized future protests just by helping broadcast how unforgiving the military was about students protesting. Yeah, it was. I think it stunned me. It stunned me in a way that, I mean, no offense to any of the other guests we've had, but it was definitely like the peak guest we had, and it was quite, like I said, surreal, and yeah, it was just surreal, I guess.
Well, it was very touching for John. Of course, John always blamed himself for putting Mary Vecchio forever in that photo, because she, of course, afterwards was harassed by the FBI. She lost her jobs. Her father actually sewed T-shirts with that picture on it. And she basically said, when I brought them together at Emerson in 1995, that photo was very important to her. And instead of blaming John, she said the two of them had helped in the war. She said this is part of God's plan. So, Wenxiao, from your perspective, what was it like when you talked to John Philo on that evening? You also, of course, met Russ Miller, who was Jeff's brother.
Yeah, I think like Misha just said, like Mr. John Philo is very like down to earth. Like, I think like if like John is a professor or something, like definitely will take his class and talking about his previous experience and like his profession or something like that. And like what really hits me is that like how like not only during the event, like when John is trying to take pictures, cover the event, but also after that, how he tried to save his photographs, try to release it, try to tell everybody the truth. It's not as how they reported at that time. I believe that, that struggle kind of reveals like how hard it is like for you to deliver a message that like not everybody likes it. When somebody tried to hide this part of truth, then delivering it could be pretty hard. Like he got trouble from FBI or something. That's not everyone experienced in daily life.
Yes. Well, with regard to the retrospective, why don't you just summarize briefly? This is one where we really sort of immersed you in it. We didn't have a lot of help. As a matter of fact, we had no help other than just what you all did. What, Misha, did you do in terms of you were in the Requiem, so you did that piece. What else did you do with regard to getting the word out on the retrospective?
Well, I put it in my Instagram story. I invited several of my friends, most of whom came. I was in charge of the technical aspects, which is why the live feed didn't happen, because I'm a bit incompetent at my job. What else? Well,
You made some of those characters come alive with your portrayal, so that was very good.
I did that at the
Yes.
at the Southwick recital. I played two characters, the citizen and the teacher. It was not so standard of a play with like plots and stuff like that. It was just kind of you wrote it, I believe, right?
Yes, yes.
So it was all these different like personified agendas
Yes.
through these four people, and it was quite good writing. It was so these four personified agendas, and they all like sort of cut each other off and try to make sense of the tragedy that happened. And yeah, I just think the retrospective was it was emotional. It was very valuable in terms of just you could tell just looking at John Philo's face and the other people that were there that had connections to it, that it was a very, very well appreciated, successful.
Well, in part, I think thank you for bringing that opinion, even though it's not one that brings us together. It's one that expresses that conflict, and still today. Okay, an international student. What did you do, and what did you take away?
I'm like basically doing some like posters, like posting that, and also like doing some external PR, like editing our press release, and when the final version comes out, just send it out to like looking up like university press or newspapers in Boston they have, and trying to communicate with them, trying to send emails. They're not responding, so I just send it again and again, and doing something like that. And also like doing some like Instagram posts, and everybody coming or talk to some of my like friends. They speak Chinese. I say like, you guys are like, you pretend to like being very interested, like student protest or something. Like that is a retrospective on that. That is a story like happening in like different political system. You must like come and try to understand the event, understand the emotion, understand what's happening back then. And just come, and they have like some food or something. Like I don't know what they come for, but they finally came. So yeah.
Terrific. So I guess my question as we close here, because I know you've got finals and other things to do, is if I said to you, hashtag, as you know I always do, what would be your hashtag on the retrospective? Kent State, Jackson State, 53 years later at Emerson College.
I would say hashtag success.
Success.
Yeah, that is a real success, because I think the retrospective not only like look back to past, like, but also like we're like looking forward, what we can do in the future, what we can try to do to avoid that. I believe it is very positive, like bringing everybody to think about the problem, bringing everybody to like look back from history and look forward.
That's a great synopsis. It's, as Sandy Anna said, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. Misha, your hashtag?
Like I said, hashtag valuable, because I think it was a necessary thing. I think it was something that really brought people together, and I'm glad it happened. So shout out to you for doing it. Shout out to Soren who headed most of it, and yeah, it was a great event. I'm just very glad that it exists as opposed to not existing.
Thank you so much. I think for Pain on Politics, what I would say is these two young men are examples of what Mary Vecchio has said that was all about in terms of wanting to be in the Requiem at the very last line, because what she said was, those who carry the lanterns of truth must pass those lanterns on to the next generation. So these young men and the people in Kent State, Jackson State at Emerson College are passing the lanterns on, and in a few days we're going to see those lanterns glowing brightly at Kent State, Ohio. So for Pain on Politics, we're over and out from Boston. Hopefully we'll see you soon at Kent State. Take care. Thank you, Young, as well as Misha.
Thank you. This was great.
Thank you.